development. And today we're going to be talking about your social media presence and how that can lead to career success. I know we've got a couple folks on the call this afternoon, but I just wanted to let you all know that we are recording this session. And so if you could please stay on mute throughout this process, we would greatly appreciate that. If you've got any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to send them in the chat, which is being monitored by our wonderful Debbie Hudson, and we'll be sure to get to all of your questions at the end. So we've got a few learning goals for today. Basically, we're going to walk through what am I talking about when I say social media presence? Why is it important? We're going to identify some popular social media platforms for your personal use along with your professional use as well. And we're going to talk about the pros and the cons, the do's and the don'ts. And then we will, of course, talk about how to evaluate your content before you post something. So, what is a social media presence? This is your brand. This is your personality. This is how you're perceived to interact with others on social media. And this is important for several reasons. One, and I might be going a bit out of order here, so bear with me, but a large majority of folks have social media, mostly for their personal use, whether that be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which is now known as X, TikTok. All of these things are forms of social media. And this represents who you are, what you do, but you have the opportunity to do a bit more with it. I know a lot of times nowadays we see, like influencers, people who have their entire career is based off of what they put on the internet. And there are people who only post food that they cook or, cakes that they bake, or they do nails or hair. They're putting their work on social media. That's how they're marketing themselves. And you might be sitting there and asking, well, I'm not doing one of these things. I'm not a baker. I'm not, a hairstylist. Why would I use social media to my advantage in this way? And there is a way, I promise. I mentioned a couple of these platforms earlier, but in addition, there's also YouTube, which you can use to share video content. So if you make tutorials or if you just talk about things, I know a few years ago it was really popular. If you played an instrument or if you sang, you can upload those sort of talent things onto YouTube. Facebook, most people use it to connect with friends and family and colleagues to share information, send messages, share photos. Instagram is very similar to Facebook, but it's more picture-based. So most people focus on sharing those visually appealing photo and video contents. LinkedIn is sort of the premier professional networking website and social media platform. This is very similar to Facebook. Oftentimes when I'm talking to students, I actually call it the Facebook of professional networking, because it's designed to connect, share, and learn with others who are in a business professional setting. And then X, formerly known as Twitter, this is a place to share brief thoughts or send and receive short messages. So a post on X can't be any more than 150 characters. So these are typically briefer, bolder statements that people are making. And I know that I mentioned that LinkedIn is the premier professional social media, but any of these can be used to market yourself professionally. So how do I do that? It starts with a professional profile picture. This is what you want people to associate you with. This is your first impression. So typically I recommend for folks a professional profile picture. This doesn't have to be a professional headshot taken by a photographer with a big fancy camera. It can just be a picture of you looking nice in a pressed shirt with your hair done, nice and clean cut in front of a blank wall or in front of a nice background. That can be a professional profile picture. If you're just out looking nice, you can get a picture, your friend to take one of your pictures, just out and about on your phone. A professional presence also has some sort of compelling headline that tells about who you are. So these are first impressions that will hopefully grab someone's attention and keep them reading on your profile. So this could be, certified medical laboratory technologist. This could be student. This could be, you know, passionate about improving patient outcomes. This general, short, brief statement about who you are as a professional. And then you'll also have a summary that tells what you do, what you know, and how you can help. This can also be used to showcase your unique skills. This helps you stand out from other people. It could be an elevator pitch or like your professional story. So starting with, your education all the way through where you have built your career up to be now. And it's totally okay. I know everyone's here for schooling, so everyone here is a student. It's totally okay to lead with that you are a student and you are entering into a new career with a lot of enthusiasm and knowledge to back you up. Some other things that help build a professional presence. Some of these are very specific to LinkedIn specifically, and if you create a LinkedIn account, the process to set up your profile will highlight all of these. But you can highlight your education, your skills, and your experiences. You can get endorsements and recommendations from other colleagues or professors who are on LinkedIn, which can be really helpful, especially if you're an entry-level professional. Consistent visuals and messaging across platforms. You can also share industry-related content and post about internships, volunteering, and class projects. I'm on LinkedIn. A lot of my colleagues are also on LinkedIn. And whenever we attend a conference or receive an award, or we just really do something above and beyond, someone will always post on LinkedIn and say, here's what I've been up to recently. I had this great opportunity to go to Charlotte for a conference, or, I received Technician of the Week or Technician of the Month. Here's what this means to me. Or even just to post a thank you of, I had an absolute pleasure of meeting so and so at this event. We really got to connect, we hit it off, and it was, this is what I learned from that experience. Anything like that can go on a social media to build your professional presence. So, the pros and the cons. I like to start with the pros first, and that, like I've been talking about, you get to build a personal brand. You get to control how the world sees you, how people perceive you. And this is really important because nowadays employers are really looking to social media when they're searching for applicants and new employees at their companies. In fact, sometimes it can be a bit of a red flag to employers when they're searching for an applicant online and they can't find anything on social media about this person. And that can be for a variety of reasons, but they really want to put a face to the name, or just something to the name of the resume that they have in front of them, especially when they're receiving tons and tons of resumes for one job position. This also gives you the opportunity to network with others. So building professional contacts, really staying in touch with other people. This is really valuable in the event of you decide that one day you want to move to a different company, or if you want to switch career paths. You have a group of people who you know and who you've stayed connected with, who you can reach out to maybe offer some assistance or some mentoring if you need it. And social media has made networking a lot more manageable for folks. You can also use it to explore jobs and internships. LinkedIn has a job board on it. Um, it you can actually like match it to your profile. And so the website will read your education, your background, other places you've worked. You can take a brief survey to share with the website, what you're interested in. And they can pull jobs with descriptions and keywords that actually match that. So it can be really helpful to cut down on some job search time as well. Educational and professional development. Like I mentioned earlier, it can attract potential employers. You can also use it to promote social causes that you're passionate about and support other people. And it gives you the access to professional communities that I mentioned earlier. Now, fortunately, there are some cons. There are cons to everything nowadays, but I just want to go over them with you to give you the full picture. So this first con can lead to legal issues. So for example, lawsuits such as violating confidentiality or posting misinformation can lead to doing things like that can lead to lawsuits. People have lost their jobs based off of things that they have posted on social media before, and it could jeopardize your future employment. A lot of employers nowadays actually have clauses and sort of regulatory organizations to hold people accountable for what they post on social media. So I highly recommend when you're applying to a job or when you accept a new job, or even if you're currently working somewhere, read the social media policy for that company to make sure that you are following it entirely, because you would not want to be let go of your position because of something that you could have avoided posting on social media. This next con says leads to compromised work systems. And what I mean here is phishing attempts, scams, malware, ransomware. Sometimes scammers, hackers will use social media and websites in order to, um, launch a cyber attack on an individual solely because they work at a company. So that's something to always be mindful of and stay up to your, cybersecurity training on. It can lead to tarnished reputations based off of what you post. It could violate professional conduct policies. I mentioned that earlier. Loss of professional licenses, and it could lower colleagues' opinions of you. But I will say all of these cons are cons that could happen based off of what you post. These are not cons solely for having social media. So we're going to talk about some do's and some don'ts so that you don't find yourself suffering from one of these cons. So like I mentioned earlier, do have a social media presence. 70% of employers are screening during the interview process for some sort of online life or history, not just professionally, not just on LinkedIn, just it's actually for many folks a part of a background check now. You can run a background check for certain keywords to see if someone has posted those keywords on social media. 57% of employers share that they rejected applicants because of social media findings, and 50% of employers are hesitant to hire someone without an online presence. Some employers may not interview candidates that they can't find online, and that's because there might be some questions about, especially in this day of AI, where some computer systems are mass applying to jobs on behalf of folks. Is this person real? Or, this person materials look a little too good to be true, or things aren't quite adding up here. Being able to put a face to the name can say, oh, that tracks, or yes, this is adding another layer of validity to this person's application. Do make sure that your social media presence reflects you. Like I mentioned earlier, make sure that you know the company's social media policies and guidelines. Be respectful and maintain a professional tone. I've heard other folks say, if it's not something that you wouldn't say to a grandparent, don't post it online. I would be a little more cautious than that and say if it's not something that you would post to your boss or show to like your boss's boss, don't put it online. Solely because we all have different relationships with the people in our lives. Know your privacy settings on each platform and how to use them so you can set a profile up where anyone who Googles you can see anything you've ever posted, all the way to you can set your account to be so private that when folks look you up, they can't see anything that you've ever posted. They can just see that you have an account on that platform. So pick the option that works best for you. If you know that you want to post personal updates really regularly on social media, but you don't want your employers to know what you're putting in those personal updates, put your account on a really private setting, and then you can just set a general rule of, I'm not friends with my colleagues on social media, or having a separate social media account that you have for your work friends versus your friends and your family is also an option that some people do. Do share positive stories and content about your company and industry. There are articles being released every single day by folks, and reposting them and sharing them and whatnot shows that you care deeply about the work that you're doing and you're staying informed and up to date on things. And so that shows the people who are looking you up and are in your industry that this is something that is on your radar regularly. Do remove anything that does not reflect well on you as a professional. So I always recommend that people Google themselves, just a quick Google, because that for the most part, is what an employer will likely do, with the exception of some more strict background checks, and see what pops up. Log out of that Facebook account for the first time in years if you need to. Look yourself up on Facebook. What can you see as someone who is not your friend? And if you find some things that don't reflect well on you, or maybe that you would not like to be seen, or if you think that that could be taken out of context, go ahead and remove that from your social media account. And then do join professional groups on LinkedIn. There are college alumni groups, industry and job specific professional groups. You can follow companies, you can follow industries, and all of those followings will help build an online network that you can utilize. So we'll jump into the don'ts. Don't share insensitive content. And by doing so, I mean anything related to race, religion, sexuality, disability status, politics, any of these identity functions. Also know that negative comments can get you fired, and if untrue, can get you sued for potentially defamation. And that if you are using profanity on social media, a lot of employers will see that and interpret that as you being unable to control yourself. So we're not posting obscene, threatening, intimidating, harassing, or bullying content. Make sure that information that you do share is fact checked, that it is up to date. Make sure that you are not sharing confidential information or complaining about the company you work for, clients, any customers. That is not the place to do it. I imagine you've heard the saying, once it's online, it's there forever. Yes, you can delete something, but if someone screenshots that, they can send it to your company, to your boss. So these are important things to know. Don't give advice to customers or clients, and that's here as a legal protection. Don't share information that is not about you. Don't overshare personal information. Gossip. We'll always get back to the source, and oversharing information about your job could inadvertently put you or your employer at risk. Don't use social media at work or on work equipment or office Wi-Fi. Also make sure that you are checking if you have a work issued computer, make sure that you're checking your IT's regulations and rules on what you can and cannot look up on that computer. Don't accept strangers as friends, as this could lead to those scammers, those hackers that I was talking about, who are potentially trying to use you for malicious intent. And then don't give the impression that you're writing in an official capacity, meaning don't make it seem like you are speaking on behalf of the company when you are not. So, some of these, I hope for many, are a bit more common sense based, but I'm still going to say them. So the more you know. I mentioned this earlier. The internet is a permanent record and it's never really totally private. Once something's posted online, it's really difficult to get it removed, whether it's deleted or not. Social media companies have everything backed up in digital storage and are always discoverable in a court of law. The internet never forgets. And good social media use is about setting boundaries around what/whom to follow, knowing your personal limits, and avoiding negative content. So I know that I've said a lot of things over these past few minutes. So if you have a question, please feel free to send it in the chat, or you can use the raise hand feature function, anything at all. I'll give it a few minutes in case someone needs to type something. All right. Debbie sent a link in the chat about a survey. That's what this is. And so if you could just spend a few minutes to complete that survey, that lets our department know how we're doing. If there's some topics that you want covered, but you don't see on our calendar, let us know. And we are absolutely happy to talk to those with you. And I'm sure, as you can tell, come rain or shine. Is there anything you covered that I missed? Nate, I see your comment. I came in a few minutes late. Is there anything you covered that I missed? I'm not sure exactly how late you came in. Um, but we discussed different social media platforms that you can use, like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X. Um, we we chatted about the purpose of social media and how you can build a professional brand around that based off of what you decide to post. Is that sounding new or familiar, Nate?
Do you mind if I chime in for a second?
Yes, absolutely.
Also, Nate, we all of our videos are on our YouTube channel. So any of them that you missed, you can review them there. And I'm gonna ask Debbie if you don't mind dropping a link into the chat so that anybody that's on the call that may have missed something, they can have that.
Perfect. Thank you, Ailika. That, yes. So we'll give Debbie a few seconds to send that link in before we end today. But our next Career Tip Tuesday is February 10th. It's another Tuesday. I'm at 12:30, and we're going to go over how to read a job description. Specifically, if I'm sure if you guys have been perusing for jobs and seeing things listed online, they're packing a ton of information into something that might be very long. And so we're going to learn how to sort of digest that and maybe read in between the lines for what employers might be trying to say. But thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm just sharing my screen. Wonderful. We are done with the content for the day. I'm going to stay on the line in case folks have questions and while Debbie looks for that link to get that sent in. But that concludes, oh, there it is. Perfect. That concludes our Career Tip Tuesday for the day. So thank you all for joining us.